I am Jay Polk. I'm running for ZB in District 8. And first I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Joe and Linda King for having us here tonight. So if we could give them a round of applause. They always do a great job of making sure that we're well informed. So this is a great way to get to know the candidates. I was born in Jackson, Tennessee, so don't hold that against me. I'm from West Tennessee. I moved to Middle Tennessee and I met my lovely wife of 12 years. She was from Townsend and convinced me that Townsend was the most beautiful place on earth. And now we live here and I agree with her completely. It's a beautiful place. I love the Smokies. I hike as often as I can. It's almost one of those things where, you almost get close to God when you're up on top of a mountain. I think it's beautiful. And I wish nothing more than to preserve the land and I guess our way of life for our children and grandchildren. And that's actually one reason I want to run for office, because I really see things going on in our government that I think are against those ideals. I see things, I see spending out of control, and I see land grabs and the government thinking they can use private property better than a private property owner. I think that's completely against what our founding fathers had in mind when they set up this country. They didn't set up the country thinking, let's set up a government that has rules that everybody has to follow. They set up a country that said, let's let the citizens decide how to live and how to spend their money, because they're the ones that work for it. So to that end, I'm all for cutting government spending. It's your money to begin with, so why are we passing it on to a middleman who then turns around and spends it on something else? So that you might not agree with. And I think that's probably one thing that annoys me the most in government is you'll have two groups. One group wants something from the government, and another group wants something that's contrary. Well, when the government picks a side in the argument, you've got a group that's not being represented. So it's very important that the those in the commission are very careful as to what kind of decisions they make, depending on what citizens' opinions they might be listening to. I believe as an independent, I have the added advantage that I have no ties to any political party. I have no ties to any political favors to anyone in current government. So I'm willing to make the tough choices, and I can make up my own mind without having to listen to whatever political interest there might be trying to pull my ear one way or another. So I'm strictly for the Constitution. I hold to libertarian values, which are low taxes, small government, and more freedom. And I think that's about it. I'm all for private property rights and for cutting taxes. So if anybody has any questions, hopefully you've saved all the easy ones for me after asking all of them tonight. So, but ask anything you want to. I'll answer to the best of my ability.
What do you think of this text snitching program?
Well, the question was about this text snitching program where the high schoolers, I guess kids in school can text when they see something going wrong. I think it kind of comes into the play where people use government too much as the middleman between relationships, between neighbors or between children and parents. They always want to go to the government and say, oh, something's going wrong. Well, I think we need to get back to the way our country was, where if a child was having a problem, the parents would step in and get with their kids and work out these problems together. So it's not really, I think when you rely too much on the government to fix things, then you're destroying relationships between neighbors, between parents and children, between individuals. I mean, you look at the Planning Commission. Sure, it starts out with good intentions. Everybody wants to protect land. I don't think anybody's going to raise their hand and say they're for pollution. But the best, I guess what I'm trying to say is when the Planning Commission steps in, a neighbor reports a neighbor to this government entity. Well, you create a divide between neighbors when you do that. I mean, there used to be a time, I think, when neighbors would actually talk to one another and work out their problems. And, you get stronger communities when you have neighbors working out their issues together. So, I think I probably digressed a little bit, but it's kind of the same principle. I think you want to keep the government out of personal relationships. Yes.
Following along with that, what happens when you have neighbors who shoot other neighbors because of property, because you're not allowing the government to step in? Or what happens at school when you have these kids? Because I know we've talked about it in the news, about, I wouldn't say texting, snitching, you're texting. What happens if you have a child getting ready to get beat up? I mean, the parent isn't gonna drive to the school. Yes, they could probably text the parent, but what are they gonna do? Then the parent's gonna get in trouble, because I know if my parents step in, they're gonna get in trouble with the law.
Well, you know, I think when you get to the point where you're actually about to see someone perform physical harm on someone, then yeah, sure, I think there's school resource officers now that, you know, cost us $1 million a year that are supposed to step in and do something about that. And so, you know, it's the same thing with you know, when a neighbor shoots a neighbor, I mean, there's laws against that. So, you know, I have no problem enforcing the laws that exist. You don't shoot people, you know, you don't stab them, you don't do bad things to other people. And when you do, the law is going to prosecute you. You're going to go to jail, you're going to be tried, you're going to, if you're guilty, then, you know, you're going to pay the price. But I think what we have to, like, again, what I said is when you've got people reporting to the government, you're destroying these relationships. You can't talk to one another, and you break down the communication, and that's the easiest way to I guess isolate your neighbors and your friends.
You know, sometimes a good old-fashioned whooping will make a man out of it.
That's true. It could be true. I'm sure the person.
These boys have always fought since the beginning of time. Sometimes letting them fight and duke it out resolves the problem.
Well, I'm sure the guy getting whipped has a different opinion, you know. But
if they be parents, it would make a difference in our schools.
you know, I think that's a great statement. I think that principle kind of carries over into everybody. I mean, we want to say we don't want to do that. We'll let the government do it. You know, and it's almost like the thinking that we've gotten into in America. You know, it's someone else's problem. We'll let them deal with it. You know, my kid is unruly, so I'll just send him to school and let the teacher deal with it. You know, my neighbor's a jerk, so I'm just going to call the cops and have them do something about it. You know, so I don't think we have the connection as a community that we should have. And I guess I'm really for cutting back the government. I mean, when you've got so many departments that are supposed to kind of come in between citizen relationships, that's kind of where to me, I think that's where your community starts falling apart.